Hello. Welcome. I'm back. I've been here all week. You guys are probably sick of me, but I brought fresh blood to help with the problem of too much me. Hankerin Ferinale, Brandish Gilhelm,
in a little box.
Ingrid Bernal. How many names do you have?
What's up, my man? 4 main ones.
Okay.
And there'll be new ones ongoing.
Well, hey, man, we appreciate you being with us. I say us because I know some of my crew's watching.
Yeah, where are we? Are we on Twitch right now? Where do we exist?
We are on both Twitch and YouTube. We're multi-streaming. This event is ArchoniaFest 2024. I have the year in there, even though it's the first one, because this is our 5th year celebration for our channel. We've been playing games on stream for 5 years.
Crazy.
Yeah, we got 2 different shows, and we got now we got a whole fest. We just finished up a game of Vieja Escuela Pulp a few minutes back, and now we're here. So yeah, thank you for helping us celebrate and coming to talk with me. I mentioned to you before, you're the first person in my whole life that I've ever interviewed for anything.
Well, it's a very formal process, so
yeah,
no missteps will be tolerated here.
No, don't worry. I have a plan. And the plan is, for any segment of my viewership that may not know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, yo, I'm Hankerin Ferinale, Brandish Gilhelm, Ingrid Bernal. That's me right here. I'm the Runehammer person. So I started Runehammer 9 years ago, and I've since then released, a dozen or so books and enough PDFs to choke a donkey and, a bunch of videos and all that stuff. So if you don't know about Runehammer, just Google that word. I own that word. Like, everything you'll find will be me.
Absolutely.
Another backwoods DIY RPG dude. Just doing my thing, making stuff. That's what I do.
Yeah, I remember discovering you way back in the day when you were Drunkens and Dragons.
Yeah.
And you were making a hellscape. You did a really long crafting video, and you were using this 2-inch XPS foam, and I thought, oh, that looks awesome. And I copied it as best I could, even though in my area you can only get it an inch thick.
So big.
Yeah. But I've run a couple sessions on camera with that piece that you inspired. So thanks for that.
And that was fun making those like super giant ones. And back then I had a very big house. So I could make these insanely huge, like wargaming style boards out of, like you said, out of that mega chunky foam. And then, not have to have it in my room. Just put it in the basement. Nowadays, like, I live in Philly now, and like my entire house is smaller than my basement.
Wow.
I got to rethink my style a little bit.
You know what? I'm taking up more of the real estate than you, and that's because in our last conversation there was another guy sitting next to me. So I'm going to move myself over.
Space.
Because you're important too. All right. Yeah, dude. I got to tell you, I am loving Crown and Skull. I got the special edition. I forgot to bring it in here with me. We haven't played it yet. It's on the schedule for May, but I'm loving reading it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thanks so much. Such a great book. I have this as well, which my wife got me that for Christmas, and I've not read a page of it yet, but I know it's going to be good.
Love it. Skull has really got a good kind of feel to its kind of growth curve right now. It feels like it's it's always a crapshoot. It could be even the coolest book that you've created, or the prize of your collection, and it can still wind up like not really fulfilling its purpose, like getting to tables and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a crapshoot. You never really know how much it's going to sort of stick. But Crown and Skull, of all the things I've written, I think it's very, very sticky. So that's really fun to see.
Yeah, I was listening to you on one of your live streams talk about it, and you used that word recently, sticky. It's a good word. Index card RPG seems to be pretty sticky, though. There's quite a community around that one.
That's also like Well, that's like 7.5, almost 8 years ago, which is kind of a little mind-boggling.
And people are still putting stuff out for it.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Yeah, so it definitely, in its early days, less so. I think in its early days, it's kind of looked at like, kind of like a kid vibe, or like, I don't know, people say beer and pretzels, which to me is kind of like doesn't really make me feel proud when I hear the beer and pretzels term. That's kind of like, oh. But over time, though, I think it kind of secured itself a spot just through, I don't know, just through word of mouth, I suppose, or just handiness. It does have like a handy kind of feel to the book. So, yeah, those two are my sticky ones. Yeah,
definitely. And another one of I meant to have all of my Gilhelm masterpieces next to me, but the only one I actually have at the desk right now is Legacy of Mud. But another one of yours that I bought that I, for no reason other than just not getting around to it, haven't cracked open yet, is Viking Death Squad.
Oh,
what's your pitch for that one?
I think the pitch would be, if you really want to like shake like the rusty bolts loose in your RPG brain and get outside of your norm, which, you know, if you're like me, dude, like, you know, you kind of get into a groove with it, right? Like if you're playing every week or so, especially if you're like GMing like twice a week.
Yeah.
You definitely like get into like a thing. Like you're getting real comfortable with whatever rules you're using. You get real kind of cozy in your own sort of world.
Yep.
You kind of know the lore of like the vast sort of portion of your world in a relatively accurate way. And it becomes like a kind of a comfort zone. And then Viking Death Squad is sort of like sort of clears everything off the table, kind of. It's like, you know, pulling the tablecloth and all the stuff goes with it kind of a feel.
All right.
So the mechanics are like real swingy and kind of wild and kind of like, how is this even okay? This is like kind of ridiculous, these mechanics. And then the world is also kind of like way over the top. Like it's advised in the book that every adventure you run in Viking Death Squad should have at least one base jumping scene. So yeah, you either need to jump off a skyscraper or jump like into a pit into hell, or you need to jump off of a spaceship and land on Earth, or you always got to jump off of something.
That's great to me.
And it's just kind of that kind of silly sort of, I don't know, bombastic kind of vibe. And honestly, we played a short campaign with it, but this is one book where I can comfortably say, like, this isn't really made to be like some kind of big dramatic campaign. Like, you probably go a little crazy, honestly.
Yeah.
A long campaign with it. But like for a 2-shotter or so, I think it's really fun. It's also just sort of an art phase that I went through. I did all the art in there, and it's all very like kind of got a scratchy.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Death metal kind of vibe. And I just wanted to do that for about a year. I just wanted to do that kind of art. So I'm like, what could be an excuse to draw like a bunch of like screaming skeletons with like, you know, bolter guns and armor on and stuff. And that's what begat Viking Death Squad.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I don't know how aware you are of what we do. One of our 2 shows on Monday is a Monday night stream called Tales from the Backlog, where we try out different games all the time. And we've just recently moved from doing almost exclusively 1-shots to more like 2 and 3 shots. So we have Crown and Skull on the schedule for May, and now I'm thinking I got to put Viking Death Squad on after that, because that sounds awesome.
Well, Crown and Skull, I mean, is almost the opposite. It like wants to live right inside your fantasy comfort zone, and it wants you to play a 2-year campaign. It's like really built for that. So they really are just like total opposites from each other. And Viking Death Squad's a tiny little book, too.
It is. You know, we're 12 hours a day this week on stream, and we spent about 2.5. Yeah, I know, it's getting to me. We spent about 2.5 hours yesterday. I got this little camera pointed down here. We're just doing book reviews. We went through my whole shelf. Me and my guy Alan, who's over there. We went through my whole shelf, and I got to Viking Death Squad and started talking about it, and I just turned it up to the camera so people could see how thin it was. It's like half the size of Merkborg.
Yeah, she's tiny. It's very compact. I didn't want to like belabor the point of it. I felt like, yep, that's enough. Moving on.
I see a couple people in the chat. I know Dean was here earlier. I see Mia, Carlos, Sebastian over on YouTube. I got Twitch and YouTube chats both up. If any of you guys have any questions you'd like me to fling at our man here, please put them in there, and I'll see if he will answer them. But yeah, very excited about this week. Very excited about having you here. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the Crown and Skull like regular edition even looks like, but I bought. Actually, Mia bought it for me, and it is the special edition is just beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like the gold edition is the one that you want like in your like where you play in your house.
Yeah,
it's like heavier. It's quite a bit heavier than the basic one. It's like a lot to put in your backpack. I don't know if like I'm a backpack. I walk to host my sessions.
Okay.
So I have like a backpack and like a role playing case, like jammed with books and terrain, and I have to walk through the city to go play.
Wait, how far?
It depends, but like the main one I do, my buddy's house, is probably like a 15-20 minute walk.
Okay.
Just cruising through the city, but you definitely notice when some books are like way heavy. You're like, man, this thing's big. It's kind of like fluffy too. Like it's sort of thicker than the basic. So I've actually really come to love the basic one the best. It feels just so, I don't know, just like it's from an old library or something. Not like a medieval time, like the 60s or something. I don't know. It's just, you really get cozy with it. It's got that Arlen case on it, which is like a lot of the old textbooks in the 60s had Arlen, which is that kind of like kind of canvasy stuff. Oh man, it came out so cool. That was Regent was my publisher or my press on that book, and they are the best. So if anybody's looking for a plug for the press I use, it's Regent Publishing. They're epic.
So noted. Might look into that in a year or two myself. I was talking right before you. One of our other cast members was on with me, Mia, and she mentioned this book behind me is a book that she bought because she saw it on your channel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that book. Looks like you have the whole collection, my man.
I do, man.
Gentleman.
I got this one first, and then later I saw the Necronomicon in the bookstore, and that's when I realized I was on a hunt now.
Oh, yeah. There's such great volumes. It's just like everything.
It's so good, yeah.
What the massive Conan collections are. I'm a nut for Conan. So, like, I'm opening up a bookstore here pretty soon, and, like, I didn't want to get into, like, the wormhole of graphic novels and comics, because it feels like it's like the red weed on Mars. You know, if you start doing comic books, it just starts growing on everything. It's before you know it, you're, like, swimming through comics like on DuckTales. But
I had that phase, yeah.
But the one exception when I'm, like, looking through these, like, book wholesalers and stuff is Conan. Like, I cannot resist getting Savage Sword of Conan when I can find it. It's just too dope. Like, especially the older ones with Alfredo Alcala as the artist and stuff. Like, it's so, like, informative on, like, all the stuff that we see as cool in our hobby. They just are like peanut butter and jelly together. So I cannot resist but, like, collect and stock a bunch of Conan. It's just too dope.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's good stuff. And, going back to different, like, types of books just on the shelf, I love looking at these. But then you've also got those old mass market paperbacks, like from the 60s. And I love looking at those, too.
Yeah, and you got the Tor ones, which are the ones I really grew up on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Tor ones were like, I don't know, like the 90s and early 2000s or so. And there's like 40 of them.
Yeah. I didn't get into Conan until I was old, though. I was like probably late 20s when I first read Conan. And then I found out that what I was reading... Yeah. Well, I mean, old, but
oldish,
older than growing up. But yeah, and then I found out that what I was reading had been decamped, and I went back. And he's a good writer, but I felt robbed. I wanted the originals, and that's when, at some point in that process, is when I came across this.
Yep. Yeah, I think I got into it when the first movie came out. So I don't know, that was like 83-ish.
Yeah, okay. I was 2.
84-ish, yeah. So I was like 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, so early for my lifetime, but I still felt like I was late to the party. Like Conan still felt like it had been around forever.
Yeah. Well, of course it had 30s.
But yeah, the movie just like when I was a kid, just like completely blew my mind. I was making like wooden swords out of 2x4s in like my friend's dad's wood shop for like 2 years straight. We were obsessed with it, like trying to make like a Conan style sword with the blade grip on it and everything, and like I don't know, it's just a whole thing we went through. We were just like our whole brains just became Conan mush. After we saw the movie, and my mom was freaking out because she thought that movie was like really violent.
It was
like then things were a little different, but it's like it was. You look at it now and it's just kind of like, okay, we got some tomato sauce here.
Yeah. Do you know the factoid about He-Man, the origin of He-Man?
What? Maybe not. No.
So this is what I heard from Joe Bob Briggs back when he used to host movies on TNT. But apparently, so Conan the Barbarian was going to come out, the movie, and they were mass producing toys for that. And then Mattel went and saw the movie, and they said, this has so much sex and violence in this. We cannot sell these thousands of toys we've made to children. And they repainted them, and that was He-Man.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that.
And if you look at the He-Man sword, it's all gray, but it's actually the same shape as the Atlantean sword from Conan the Barbarian.
Trippy doodads on it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at like all my He-Man and Skeletors right now. As I freaking love Skeletor. Skeletor is my shit. Like, I listen to the Skeletor ambient meditation music YouTube channel.
Oh, wow.
That's how deep I am in Skeletor. I have like
I'll have to look that up later.
Tiny Skeletor, and I have like big like Japanese collector's edition Skeletor. Like, I take all the He-Man and pull his head off, and you get extra Skeletor heads, and you stick those on He-Man. That is the only way to live.
Outstanding.
Here is an example of how to properly build.
That looks demonic, my friend.
This is what you got to do with all your He-Man guys. It's amazing.
So many collectors have steam coming out their ears right now.
It just never gets old. It just entertains me on a daily basis.
That's funny, man.
Every time I look up at these guys, I get a kick out of it.
Well, I've got a couple viewer questions rolling in.
Great. About Skeletor.
What's that? No, they're not about Skeletor yet. I think they're going to catch up with us on that.
Okay, we'll work up to it.
So this one, I have a feeling that someone's saying no. I have a feeling that the answer to this is going to be many-fold. But what system did you draw the most inspiration from when making your games?
Oh, man. Well, everything up to Crown and Skull was definitely like scattershot. I don't know what the hell I was doing, to be completely honest. I mean, I'm just like everybody else out there, where I've played pretty much every edition of D&D.
Sure.
And a bunch of other stuff. And we all like and dislike bits and bobs from all over the place and come up with some freaky cobbled craziness that only lives at our table. And I've been doing that since I was a kid, like everybody else that I kind of hang out with.
Sure.
But things changed when I got to Crown and Skull. I knew with Crown and Skull I wanted to go like deeper, so to speak. I wanted to make something more robust. And so I looked back in my brain, and actually D&D, especially in the early part of my life, was the thing I played the least. I played a lot more Palladium and TMNT and Rifts and GURPS. And so I was kind of digging through that kind of memory chest a little bit, like, where's something I can kind of really, sink my teeth into here as far as an inspiration. And then I remembered my high school campaign with my GM, Dave, who was a Marine. And we played Fantasy Hero. We played first edition Fantasy Hero, which came out in 85. but we were playing it in 88 to 90. And that was, I mean, it was a great campaign. We had a blast. High school is a great time to be playing D&D. But so then I went and got that book. I got the first edition Fantasy Hero book and like instant like mega waves of nostalgia. So that was really cool. Just to feel it in your hand again. That was kind of like a mind-blowing experience. So I started reading through it and I absolutely loved it. But, no shade being thrown, but it didn't necessarily age that well. Like the crunch factor of it was so heavy duty. It made Pathfinder look like nothing. Just like, whoa, there's so much extra detail here. But the kind of the guts and the concepts at play, I really, really liked them. And so that is where the core mechanical inspiration of Crown and Skull came from, is Fantasy Hero. And this is also why, on the internet, I'm known to be have a weird ass hang up or like an attitude about the term old school or old school Renaissance, whatever OSR.
Sure.
And I think Fantasy Hero is a really perfect example of like why I do have itchy undies about that term, which is like, that was also the old school.
Yeah.
And it could not be more different from D&D. It is so, and from, I guess there are like these sort of generalizations about old school, like it was more deadly and it was more about coins and XP and sort of the dungeon procedural kind of thing and not staring at your sheet for solutions and all these kind of things. But I'll tell you, like, all the opposites of those things are true in Fantasy Hero. Like, it was far more powerful. It wasn't that deadly. It was super crunchy and complicated. It really had no actual, like, coin or, like, XP type mechanics at all. It just used points like GURPS did and stuff. And that was also old. That's why I always get so itchy with the old school term. But part of why I wanted to, bring it into Crown and Skull was to, like, plant that flag a little bit, to almost, like, remind the hobby that the vintage era had vast amounts of variety in it. It wasn't just something we can put a generalization on. And so I wanted to both have that old pedigree. Like, the roots of this game are deep, y'all, like 80s deep. But it's not what you might think it is by, saying it's from the 80s. Like, there were so many different things back then. So I kind of wanted to make a statement about that.
That was a good answer. Thank you. Yeah, I started later than Conan. My first D&D game was in 4th edition.
Man, crazy. Well, that's a good one to start in, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say I loved it. A lot of people hate on it, but as a first-time D&D player, I didn't have any problem with it.
Yeah. I think maybe just, I don't know, I think there was a weird turbulence area there where people were, like, worried that D&D was going to become World of Warcraft. Yeah. Like, there was, like, a kind of a sky is falling kind of moment of, like, oh, no, it's using terminology that's kind of like World of Warcraft or like Diablo or something, like, yeah. There's a brief moment of terror. But I think now that the terror is gone, you can look at
it was gone.
yeah, exactly. But you can look at it without that kind of worry. It's actually like the clarity of 4th edition is like through the roof. Really, really clean and tight.
Yeah. I remember
really strong character. Jeez.
Yeah, I remember saying when we switched to 5th edition that my take early on was I have more fun building characters in 4th edition, but I have more fun actually playing in 5th edition.
Right, yeah. Yeah, the heap of powers in 4th edition did kind of weigh you down a little bit up there.
Yeah.
Like good level. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Like 18 powers. There's like only 2 hobgoblins. What am I going to do?
There was so much page flipping.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, the cards were supposed to make everything easy, but then you're just like...
Then you have pages of cards.
Yeah. You're just like looking at them, just starting to go like, drifting off into dissociation.
Yeah. And like, I got it. I understood the game, but dear God, people talk about it takes a long time to run combat in 5th edition. Those people are spoiled, man.
Well, when we played 4th, like every game we played, we used like 10% of it. Like, we ignore so much stuff because we just get like lazy. We just tired of trying to do it right, so we'll just be like, like we always wave off attacks of opportunities. The first thing we do of any game that we're reading.
Oh, really?
There's so many complications and so much stuff going on with that. We just ignore it. And that's like a third of the entire text, I swear, especially in 4th edition.
Okay.
Man, so many abilities with fucking attacks of opportunity, my God.
Yeah, and that's actually a theme I noticed. One thing that is in common, I think, between Index Card RPG and Crown and Skull, because Index Card RPG is the one I have actually run, and it does seem like you're constantly trying to cut away the bullshit.
Yeah, totally.
Like, we don't need this, and even the one thing of Index Card RPG that really stuck with me that I still mentally use, even though I don't necessarily share it with my players, is just the DC being the same for the entire scene. The whole room, this DC doesn't change.
Yep, that's a lifesaver.
Yeah, absolutely. That was so good.
The type of GM who doesn't like constantly announce your DC, it's just mental.
Sure.
Like, Professor Dungeon Master does that as well.
Yeah.
Then it's like a godsend. I mean, you're just flying. You're just riding along like on vacation.
Yep. And that is me most of the time. My players they're pretty creative people. I would think most players are, but mine are as well. And they're always doing things I don't expect them to do,
Yep.
And just having a number ready already. Pretty good.
Knowing that players do unexpected things is the sign, I think, of a seasoned game master. Like you learn to plan for the unplannable.
Yeah.
So when it starts happening, you're just chilling. You got like the number 13 in your brain. You're good to go.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a writing background and a degree from film school, and my first few sessions of D&D, I approached it that way. I'm like, this is a story, I'm going to write it, and they're going to play it. And by the time the first session was over, I was like, I ain't going to work. But
like the romance is not taking hold.
Yeah, I was telling people this week, like, I don't write stories anymore. I create scenarios, and then we find the story together. I remember in my first session that I ran, which was also the first session I played at all, I planted a character name in my wife's character's backstory. And yeah, I'm the guy that was already married before I played D&D. And then my friend who was there, I gave him that same character name as a target. He was the rogue. He had to steal something from this guy. And they're not necessarily in conflict at all, but I just put them there. And there was a half hour of that game where I didn't have to say anything because they were standing up yelling at each other. I was like, oh, this is the best thing that's ever happened, man.
The Rubik's Cube work.
Exactly.
Stepped right into my booby trap. They always step into booby trap.
Absolutely, yeah, and that was the best experience the best experience I had early on, and it made me know what was possible in this whole hobby. But yeah, I'm not being interviewed; you are. So let me ask you another question.
No shenanigans.
Shenanigans. I'm failing the interviewer assignment. This is from chat as well. What game system is your guilty pleasure? And I'm not sure what that means, but maybe you do.
What game system is my guilty pleasure? Well, it would have to be something like almost shameful.
I'm sorry, you cut out. What was that?
It'd have to be almost something semi-shameful, right? Otherwise, there would be no guilt. So,
right. If you're not ashamed to game at all, like what? Where's the guilt going to come from?
Yeah. Oh, man. So which one do I play, but I don't necessarily want to tell anybody about it? Oh, my goodness. Well, I don't know if it's guilty, but it's a little guilty. But I do think Pathfinder's super dope. I always have really respected it and kind of been slightly afraid of it. At the same time, like making a Pathfinder character is a hobby. It really is a hobby.
Yeah.
And it's not like a thing that's wrong. Some people say, oh, it's so hard and there's so much to it. That is not a mistake or a problem. That is That is what you're buying. Yeah, yeah. So I do have, and everybody sees my bookshelf in my videos and everything, so everyone knows I have Pathfinder books. But I never talk about it, publicly on the internet, anywhere. I never am like, oh yeah, Pathfinder's fucking sick. I'm worried that Pathfinder fans will know that I'm a lightweight.
That's funny.
Come for me. They're going to come and get me because they'll know I'm a casual. I'm Pathfinder curious.
There you go. Now, do you get into Pathfinder 2e at all, or strictly first?
Well, I kind of have switched over.
Okay.
But the differences are honestly just mostly quality of living differences. There's a couple cool new things the shield durability stuff and stuff. But really, it's just its language and its organization, to me, are the second edition.
Sure. Yeah.
Also, sadly, a little less Wayne Reynolds art, which to me is a bit of a loss for Pathfinder. But he's just one guy. You can't just have him do hundreds of pieces every year, forever. So that torch needs to be handed to somebody. But overall, I think second edition is great. I just love their pocket editions too. I think they're really freaking. They're so dense and so satisfying to nerd out over. Just reading a little bit about one of the classes and then calling it a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, just reading about one kind of class is plenty. And I think also their adventure paths are absolutely sick. I don't think I have the mental capability to actually deliver one of those. Like Order of the Ember Die does. I'm actually going to go visit with them on Friday night. But
cool.
They run the full thing. With every map and every encounter and every detail.
Wow.
I'm just this is nuts. The amount of processing, but they kind of treat it more like a canonical exercise. They don't treat it like an improv theater class.
Sure. Yeah.
They treat it look, this is what is written here. Let's see if we can beat it as it's written. Not MacGuffin it or, go around or do something silly to undo the encounter. They directly confront each one. I don't think I have the patience or the time or the energy to do it that way. That's so intense. But Pathfinder is cool because it does support that.
That's cool. Yeah. And I'm not, I don't think that I hold a candle to your tornado of creativity, but I think I'm the same way in a way. I was talking yesterday about I wouldn't. It's hard for me to run published campaigns that other people wrote. I've done it a few times, but it's hard for me because I'm afraid I'll get stuff wrong about the world. If it's my stuff, I can get it wrong, and now that's just true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't want to disrespect the material by putting some deep gnome in there, and he is a complete misfit that doesn't really fit the tone that turns out to be revealed later, and you kind of fucked it up. And it's not a big deal, but it feels like you're not necessarily delivering the piece.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I've always thought that it's odd that there's maybe a hidden message in the hobby that it's that's how you get started. Is for beginners you should run Rime of Frostmaiden or something.
Yeah.
And I'm bro, I've been doing this almost 40 years, and I don't even have the mental acumen to run Rime of Frostmaiden. I could read the book, take a couple notes, and never look at it again.
Yeah, I collected those things, man, and I've hardly run any of them. I ran Out of the Abyss, and I ran a little bit of Storm King's Thunder for 5th edition. I played Curse of Strahd when my wife ran it. That's it.
Did Out of the Abyss have the Oozing Temple in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the last 5th edition dungeon I really, really liked.
The Oozing Temple, I think, is where Glabagool, the intelligent gelatinous cube, comes from.
Yeah.
He became a fixture in our game world.
It was so sick, and where it was sick, and I loved the map was kind of more simplified looking, and
yeah,
I thought it was so cool. And then the subsequent books started coming out, and I got all itchy with it. I don't know why, but it never quite. But I did love that one. I thought Oozing Temple was really cool. I love the name. I love the whole vibe of it.
Yeah, it was great. And it was in there as an extra encounter that you could stick anywhere.
Yeah.
And I used it for a player who missed a session. I was like, you fell in a hole and this is where you landed.
That's great.
Yeah. But then Glabagool came with him when he left, and he became like the sidekick for the party.
Great.
We have a clarification on the guilty pleasure question. He meant, what do you like to? What's a game you like to play, but other people hate it?
One that I like that people hate.
Yeah, or maybe just your people hate.
People hate RPGs. Something that I'd probably have to go back in time for that one. Like nowadays, I live a pretty easygoing hobby life, so we kind of all play Crown and Skull OSE, basically. Nobody hates those.
No,
but
everybody.
Back in the day, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the first two of the first three games that I played were Rifts and TMNT. And everybody says they like Rifts, but no one likes Rifts. I'm so sorry to the authors of Rifts. We all love the world of Rifts and like all the cool vibes and all the weird stuff and everything. But the minute you're playing it, if someone in the room is just like, "Oh, this is so smooth and easy to work with," and then you're like, "No, that is not happening. That person's been paid to say that." But I still like TMNT and Rifts. I loved them in the beginning of my journey. It was such a fascinating puzzle for me because there was no internet. So you're reading an RPG, you have no idea what this even is. You're just like, something's terribly wrong with this book. Like, A, there's not enough art, and B, it keeps like not telling me what the characters are doing. Like, what is happening here? And slowly started unraveling like what an RPG was. And we kind of played some kind of blend of TMNT and Rifts, but I don't think even we liked it. Like, we liked what we were doing, but we kept doing this like, oh my God, this structural damage, mental damage, and physical damage, and like, I think I lost track, and yeah, I don't know. So I guess that's the closest thing I have to an answer.
Okay.
This whole hatred thing is, I don't know, this is throwing me for a loop.
Yeah, I feel the same way. But I actually sort of answered this question earlier. Dungeon Crawl Classics is a game I love and I want to play, and I've multiple times tried to get a campaign going, but no one I play with wants to run it. They're just like, "No, man, you made us play this 3 times. We all died 18 times. I don't want to."
Yes. If you're doing like the farmer funnel.
Yep.
We're 20 farmers running through a tunnel.
And that's exactly what happened. We had 4 players and lost 18 player characters in the funnel that we ran.
It sounds like a good evening of PCC, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's how it went. It was good. But no, I mean, I'm overstating a bit. I've gotten people to play it again, but not often. Every time I bring up, "You guys want to do this maybe once a month?" Silence, crickets.
You got to pay them.
Yeah.
And they'll show up, give them $20, and they'll come and play with PC.
I'm out of pocket enough for this show, man.
Right.
Can't start paying the cast. But you mentioned something that made me want to ask a question. What was it? How do you think the advent of the internet and social media has changed the hobby?
Well,
not, Critical Role exists, but like the way regular players interact. How do you think that?
I think it's drastically changed it.
Yeah.
For one thing, I think it's created like this whole like sidecar hobby. And I don't use that term pejoratively or anything, like everybody enjoys it in their own way, but there's definitely like a huge segment that is like, sort of, I guess you could call it like sort of performative D&D, right? You're kind of showing D&D to a sort of imagined universe. You're like this broadcasting mindset, which is definitely fun. A lot of people enjoy doing it. Hell, you enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
But like that kind of just formed out of vapor when just all this sort of, like YouTube and everything started gaining steam. And to me, it's like there's a little bit of a love-hate with it. I think that seeing so many people talk about the hobby, like we're doing like right now almost.
Yeah.
Like on a daily basis, because the way that, our phones feed us everything, and we kind of like sort of see little bits of this stuff like a lot. I think it in some ways like uses up some of our energy to do our thing.
Yes.
The enthusiasm about watching a show, like watching one of your shows, one of your streams, that's part of your RPG energy for the week.
Yep.
And so to me, somewhat there is a little bit of a drain there. I think and this is true, I think in our lives in general, is some of our soul is like in the internet, where it used to be in the backyard or, taking a walk or whatever. And that part I dislike. But the part that I do like is the clarity of what the hell this even is certainly handy. I mean, for us in the 80s, it took forever to figure anything out. And it was somewhat excruciating at times, like you get I don't know, Temple of Elemental Evil or something, and you didn't fully grasp what was needed to even sort of do it, or exactly what the flow is. And there's nothing to look at. There's no one to ask. It's just, what do you do? And you don't know cons exist yet, because how do you even find out about cons? It's all sort of hidden.
Yeah.
And that was tough. I think that shook a lot of people off of it. And so I do think that some of the popularity we're seeing and the disappearance of the stigma, which is a most welcome thing. We got the hell poked out of us for playing D&D back in the day. Now it's totally cool to do it. So I think that's the internet getting credit for that. People can learn how to get into it way faster and just more enjoyably, honestly. And then also not feel like a tool doing it, which they shouldn't, because it's fucking cool.
Yeah.
But back in the day, man, did we it was awful. I mean, back in the 80s, you would even get picked on or bullied around just for reading X-Men.
Yep.
I mean, so it's really, really good, and I'm really happy that stigma is gone. And I do think the internet's been huge for just making that go away, because that was dumb. Leave us alone, man. We're playing D&D. It's after chess club. Be there or be square. It's the coolest thing in school.
Yep. Well put. Well put. Yeah, man. The stigma was real. I was not into D&D as a kid, obviously, but in the 80s and 90s, I was still a nerd. I was into Star Trek. I was into comic books. And boy, that word, nerd, that didn't mean the same thing it means now, man.
Oh, it was bad.
It was horrible. I tried to tell, I got a 12-year-old son. I tried to explain it to him. He's like, why is being a nerd bad? I was like, well, do you like having teeth?
Yeah, exactly. You want to live in soccer?
Yeah.
Not cool, man.
Yeah. Let's see. I got another chat question here. This one might be a little bit of a softball for one such as you, but in your opinion, how do you make a campaign the most fun for the players while keeping the threat of death real? Hello, Skeletor.
How do you make it fun while keeping the threat of death real?
Yeah, I have an answer, but I'll let you answer.
Well, I mean, they're somewhat unrelated, but I guess the implication here is that danger is fun. So how do you keep it to be funly dangerous?
Yeah.
Without so deadly that it's unfunly dangerous? Well, first of all, you got to know your game a little bit.
Sure.
So you can't improvise your game to such an extent that you've got a stray rat that can one-shot a character. So you need a little bit of consistency and understanding of the math that makes your system run. So that would be the bonehead answer. But once you have that part, I would say my solution to this is just very, very openly talk about meta with your players. Meta here just being shorthand for the thinking that you're doing as the game master. So here comes this kind of deadly thing. As a game master, you're thinking this is going to be fun because extreme levels of danger and knowing death is close is really fun, which you're right to think that. But what I'll do is tell the players, y'all, this next thing's fucked up. All right? This giant, he's got a couple of abilities that are, way overpowered, and that's just, we're playing it right out of the book. We're not going to nerf it or anything like that. And I just want to put up a quick, a little bit of caution tape on this next one. that if there is like, if you do get one-shotted or something, like, don't be surprised if there, you know, like, that's what's coming up. So on the one hand, if you openly talk about meta this way with players, I think on the one hand, they just appreciate it on a human-to-human level.
Sure.
But on the other hand, on the devious Loki level, when you do this, you actually gain a whole new layer of game master tools, which you can do this meta type bullshit whether or not it's real. You can tell them that there's this like bridge that's coming up, you know. And I just wanted to put up a quick warning because, you know, I don't like to, like, you know, ambush you guys with really deadly stuff in the game because it seems kind of unfair to me. And this bridge encounter is like looking a little spicy. I'm looking at my notes here, but I'm actually looking at the notes, and there's like nothing dangerous up ahead. Yeah. So that's the next level. That's when you're the boss GM. You're just toying with them, you know. You're like, and you got to be careful with these in equal measure, so that you're always respectful of your fellow human beings.
Sure,
treat them like the intellectuals that they are. But then also, I've got to fuck with you a little bit too. I mean, that's part of the fun, right? That's what makes it a horror movie. You know, it's not a horror movie if we're all just dancing along. There has to be some twisted psychology that comes with danger and safety and the interplay. So I hope that answers. But what's your answer, Steve?
My answer is going to be I don't see those as opposite things at all. How do you make the campaign fun while keeping the factor of death a real threat? That is what makes it fun.
Yeah.
You're going to die. Try not to. Good luck. And, you know, the person who asked this question is one of my players. And I think one of the part of my answer is the most fun I've ever had running a game, and that I think my players have ever had, are the sessions where they almost die and they're out of resources and things are grim, but they pull through, and not through shenanigans on my part, but they just win. They survive. And that's where it's the most fun.
The razor's edge victory over an encounter that is visible in a book.
Yeah.
That is openly shown to the players, because we're at a state in this encounter where the secret is not what's interesting about it. It is trying to do it. And that razor thin victory over an openly acknowledged piece of gameplay is one of the absolute best things you can ever have.
Absolutely.
That one and the other, like the opposite. It's polar opposite, which is like the night of role play, you know, where there's kind of almost no combat and everybody's like, I don't know what the hell they're doing, to be completely honest.
I live for those two. Yeah,
they get into this other zone that is the exact opposite of that razor thin victory moment. But those are my two favorite moments.
Yeah, totally. Looks like we're out of chat questions, but yeah, man, this has been a lot of fun. We got a few more minutes. What do you want to talk about, man? What do you want to tell me?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess I have news, which is exciting. It's cool that you asked about the internet, because this has been like on my mind a great deal. That I think like every 5 years or so, maybe a little more than that, the internet like folds into a next dimensional space.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I can tell you the first time that it folded. Actually, this is a circular path I'm going to take you on here, but we'll land this plane. It was when, you know, you used to download like a JPEG of like Yoda,
mm-hmm.
and it would come in like one line at a time, right?
Yep.
And
about 94.
When the sort of the download speeds went from that to slightly faster, and then suddenly, like, sorry to say, basically like porn arrived.
Yeah.
That was the first moment that the internet like folded. It went from this like weird educational, like terminal language, Zork kind of universe, and then it switched into like black and white, like Penthouse. And that was such a jarring moment, at least for me in the history of the internet. That was so bizarre and not wanted in any way, but it just happened. So anyway, fast forward, and I feel that right now we've got a little bit of like an internet fold happen going. Like, it's almost like the internet talks about itself a lot. Like, it's it's really getting a little wild. So this being my profession, I find myself in like these rabbit holes more often than I want to be, which I think is true of almost everyone today.
Yeah.
Is that you find yourself in phone rabbit holes or video rabbit holes, and you're kind of curious, but you're kind of not. And you kind of maybe get like pissy about like a hot take that you read or something. So anyway, all that kind of said, in the past year and then coming into this year, I wanted to find a way to not be so internet-y, like every single day. Because, it's not like a little bit is bad. And so that's what led to this bookstore that I'm opening. So the idea being like meet as many people face to face as possible. And I realized like I had no way to meet people who would like come to Philadelphia. Except for like asking them over my house, which is super creepy and weird. So I just hope that a lot of people are kind of seeing this space as we kind of come out of like the COVID like internet addiction phase that we all share.
Yeah.
Everybody went through that. So I'm kind of waving my arms a little bit at the world, like reminding everybody to get to their tables and, bring a charcuterie and, don't forget that that's still out there and you can still have it. And you don't have to be sucked into kind of like hot take recursion loops that are starting to happen and stuff. And it's also like why I don't sort of ever like show my friends playing. I kind of hide them. It's like not wanting your children on television.
Yeah. That's funny.
So anyway, it's just sort of something that, and then I got quoted sort of talking about this in the Philly Inquirer, and I was really happy that they quoted me on that because I think there's something happy there. Like, and a lot of people meet playing online and all that great stuff, and then eventually start playing together at tables, and that's all super dope. It's just something that's been like changing for me. I mean, like I got like 600 videos on my YouTube channel. I've been on YouTube for almost a decade and everything. And I know a lot of viewers want it to just go on forever. It's kind of the expectation almost. Like you probably feel that expectation like with your Twitch shows and stuff. It's just like, you guys are going to stream your games for the rest of time, right? Yep. Holy, well, I wanted to take a night off one of these days. So I'm trying to like get my brain used to like not streaming all the time and not like broadcasting my existence. I got to tell you, Steve, it's weird at first. You feel like you're disappearing almost.
Yeah, and I've done it for a day or two at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's a really interesting. So I think we are going through a change right now. I think something. I keep hoping that like our whole digital kind of culture will sort of evolve, but they seem to keep just making it worse. Like they have all these like weird AI tools that are like warping our brains now. Like I will only show you one kind of thing because surely you are not interested in anything else.
Yes. Oh, that drives me crazy.
Why are you doing this to me?
The only thing I actually kind of enjoy is when I catch them in an obvious mistake. Like they think I'm my wife sometimes. My wife works in HR, and sometimes I get ads for like HR courses and seminars, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
I love it. I love it.
So that's fun.
That's good moment too. Like that's your loophole right there, dude. That's when you can get away with some stuff.
Yep.
You're in the Matrix at that point. Like it doesn't know who you are. You're invisible. You're Tron. You got to make moves, bro.
Yeah, someday Microsoft or Google's going to buy the other one, and then they're going to know everything. They're just going to compare the data.
Yep, then everyone's not your wife, and it's over for you. Tron is gone.
Yeah, man. That's cool about the bookstore, though. Now, are you thinking like a gaming bookstore or just a general bookstore?
Well, it's kind of just like it's Runehammer, so it's my stuff. And the things that I sort of think are awesome. Oh. So a lot of role-playing stuff and a lot of like, I guess what you call kind of underground role-playing stuff. But then also like sci-fi and fantasy novels. And then we're going to have some super, super high-quality gaming tables. And it's a pretty cozy little spot. It's not a huge space that we got. But to me, it's just more about like quality. I also am a little weird, and I don't really like to play in like a publicly exposed environment.
Oh, I don't find that weird.
What's that?
I don't find that weird.
You don't find that weird? Yeah, and I've noticed a lot of people. There's a whole trend of like, playing in the breweries and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm a little odd with that. I find it hard to focus.
Uh-huh.
So what we did is we just have like one table that's in the main part of the store, kind of, in the other sort of area. And then we have our main table, which is in a closable space.
Oh, that's awesome. See, I'd be
more secret bookcase. So there's a secret bookcase you can close, and you're back in there, and you get and there's like a sound paneling, in there, and like there's like a mini fridge, and you get a space to be in there with your own lighting and your own people and be, I guess, just private, like. This is for us. This isn't me like waving my arms at the world like we're all playing D&D over here. Woo! It's more like, all right, guys, I want to control the music. I want to keep this mood nice and tight. Like, let's do this crazy, So I think there's room for both styles in the world, but that's kind of what we're trying to encourage at the shop. It's like a small but high quality kind of vibe.
Yeah, I've actually never gamed with anyone outside of like my house or one of my friends' houses. I've never gone to a game store and sat down and gamed.
Oh man, have you done the pub thing?
I'm sorry, what?
Have you done a pub, like game in a bar?
Nope.
Yeah.
I've gamed at my house, I've gamed at Glenn's house, and I've gamed at Chris's house, and I gamed in Dean's apartment, and that's it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild. Well, good on you.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's good on me or not, but I find it to be a private activity, and to go do it in public with strangers just feels weird to me. I'm not good with that.
Yeah, and it's, again, like, no shade on anybody or anything. Like, rock on with your bad self. Do whatever you need to do. But with us, I know that in my groups, we especially like sound and music to us are a really key part of every session. And it's we pride ourselves on like uncanny sound for our sessions. Like, and you can't do that in a bar at all. It's like yelling and like Katy Perry's on the stereo and there's a football game. You're like, this is nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, we're coming up on the hour. I'm going to need a few minutes to set up for my next interview, but thanks so much for being with us. It's great talking with you, man.
Did it. Thanks for having me on here, Steve. Good luck with your insane 1,000-hour continuous marathon, you nut.
So much Red Bull. Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate you. I hope to talk to you again in the future.
Okay, good. Have fun tonight.
All right, will do.
Okay, see ya.
See ya.